Hello, you're all very welcome. Thank you for joining me today on this webinar entitled Taking the Failure Out of FMEA. My name is Mary Bray and I'm Key Account Manager with QA Assistant. QA Assistant develops dedicated FMEA software for a wide range of customers around the world. This webinar deals with the possible challenges facing managers in obtaining buy-in from the team for FMEA. We'll take a look at some of these challenges and offer practical solutions. This webinar will last about 20 minutes and there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of the session. So just to give a background to FMEA and talk about the reasons why a company would introduce FMEA studies in the first place. Well, we're all well aware of the ever-evolving business needs in a competitive world. There's a constant focus on increasing production and reducing costs. We are dealing with shorter development and production cycles within tighter budgets, together with higher customer expectations. We are sometimes dealing with problems as they arise, and the focus is removed from creating newer and better products. As someone mentioned to me recently, it's a bit like shooting alligators in a pond, where we're so busy shooting the alligators that you forget why you were in the pond in the first place. So FMEA will capture the collective knowledge of the team to improve quality, reliability, and safety of the process. Also, documentation is becoming increasingly complex, resulting in challenges in controlling documentation. And this can be anything from the level of reporting required to the sheer number of documents to be controlled. Well, FMEA studies are proven methods for product and process improvement. FMEAs help identify potential failures and causes of the failures. They help the team brainstorm methods for controlling these failures. Reducing the engineering workload. By reducing failures, this helps engineers spend more time on what they like doing best, like concentrating on the next products that are coming through. Improving machine and resource availability. If we were able to mitigate these failures, there would be less downtime on the machine and less reworking. Improving productivity and significantly reducing costs. By minimizing failures, this will result in higher yields. So just to talk about some of the challenges that you as managers may be experiencing in obtaining buy-in from the team. Well, the first one there may be that the team is already experiencing a heavy workload. The initial reaction may be simply, I don't have the time. They may resent the perceived notion of an addition of work that an FMEA brings, and this would obviously affect morale. There may be lack of clarity and structure. There may be some confusion over what are FMEAs for, what type of information goes into an FMEA. FMEAs may be traditionally conducted retrospectively, just in line with customer or maybe audit requirements. Documentation may be just requested by the customer only after a couple of months, and if this is done retrospectively, it really does not add any value. We are simply highlighting failures that we've already established as opposed to addressing potential failures. FMEAs may be seen just as another required document, the process of which is seen as very tedious and time-consuming and not really seen as adding any value to the team. Team members might bring previous negative experience to the table. Valuable time may have been previously wasted in conducting FMEAs, and again, this is going back to the lack of clarity and structure. So in presenting the case for FMEA to the team, there's a number of things to consider. Limiting and defining the scope of the study. What do we actually include in an FMEA? Identifying the key personnel for the team. It's important that we have the right people available for our team. FMEA must be seen by the team as adding value-added support. FMEAs will benefit the organization, your company, the customer, and the end user, and also help meet those industry standards and customer requirements. Documents need to be promoted as living documents. They will help you identify the necessary controls and develop test procedures in advance of completing the project, allowing your team to spend more time on newer and better products. FMEAs also save the team time and help reduce development and production costs. They improve yields and reduce time to market. Now, these benefits will overall increase job satisfaction and reduce frustration, especially where a lot of time has previously been spent on reworking. FMEAs will ensure employee and customer safety, which is obviously very important from a moral point of view. It also established the importance of every team member. FMEAs encourage team members to take ownership of their particular role within the team. And proper FMEAs can also help with career advancement. You cannot overstate the importance and satisfaction associated with being part of a successful team. It look good in their annual review and also on their CV. Well, sometimes the question is asked, what happens if I train them and leave? And they leave. Well, the answer to that really is, what if I don't train them and they don't leave? So here we'll take a look at the structured approach and managing time in conducting an FMEA meeting. This can be sometimes quite a daunting task, completing an FMEA. We ask, where do we start and what information do we need? So today we'll discuss two methods of completing an FMEA, the row by row method and the column by column method. So if we were to just to give an example here, a very simple example, if we want to complete a table that will show categories of vegetables, large animals, and items found in the office, we want to list those items, the size of these items, and the color of these items. So, like in an FMEA meeting, in this meeting to complete this uh, table, we'll start brainstorming and ask the members of the team to come up with types of vegetables. So people start shouting things out and calling things out. So we pick carrots. So we list carrots as our first item. So then we need to, or we want to go and decide on the size of this item. So then we start brainstorming again, and the team has switched their thinking. They're thinking about numbers and units of measure, and we decide on the size of a carrot. So then we want to establish the colour of this item, and again the team switches thinking and they're now thinking of colour. So throw out some ideas and we select orange. So then we go back to the item and we're looking for another item. Again, the team switches their thinking from colour and are now thinking of items. And someone calls out broccoli. So this is the way in the row by row method that this table is completed. Now, initially, when we started brainstorming and we came up with the item carrot, there may have been other suggestions there, but because we start switching and we're thinking about size and then colour, some of these items may have been overlooked. So now we'll just take a look at the column by column approach. And this really is the ideal approach because it means that you're not switching thinking all of the time and the team is making the best advantage of the brainstorming session. So in this table, we want to fill in categories of fruit, small animals, and items found at home. So we start to list these items in the column, and the team starts brainstorming, and everybody's thinking about items. And as they throw out suggestions, we start to complete the form. So then we decide on the size of these items, and we think about apple, and we decide that the size of an apple is 4 inches in diameter. And then when we start thinking about orange, well, we know that an apple and an orange would be in and around the same size. So 4 inches is probably right for orange, and so on. So in this way, we're making a more intelligent decision on the size of all of these items. And then when we start thinking about color, well, we decide that for example, the color of a pear is yellow. And in this case, yellow is yellow. If someone was coming up with a suggestion of amber or lemon or something like that, well, we know that yellow is the color that we're using. So in that way, that there's no confusion over the color of the item. So we take this approach when we're completing an FMEA document. And here's just a section of a document. This is an FMEA for an audio speaker, and we've just listed here the items associated with an audio speaker: cone, voice coil, and dust cover. So when we start to complete this form, well, we take the items. Well, if it's a design FMEA, we'll take these items from an exploded diagram. For a process FMEA, these items will be taken from the control plan, and we list the items here. So then we start to think about failure modes. And as we throw out suggestions for failure modes, well, some of these failure modes might be common to each of these items. So we can insert the relevant information uh, and assign it to the item. In this way, there's no confusion over diction, as we saw in the last case over colour, that we're using the same phrases and the same words for the same thing. So everybody is focused on failure modes, and we're not thinking about potential effects or potential causes, and it avoids confusion. So in this way, in managing the time, we're using the structure approach for the team. It'll help cut down on time and take most advantage of the brainstorming session. Another thing to consider is leveraging existing knowledge, and this is also a key factor in running an efficient FMEA session. The importance of research. Well, reviewing existing documents allows you to take advantage of existing information, and this help avoids reinventing the wheel. It also keeps information consistent across documents so that different phrases are not being used for the same things, and we saw that in the last example. Research also helps ensure that all relevant information is considered. Now, over time, team members may leave or be replaced, but by researching existing documents that have already been created, you will save time on re-evaluating. Then there's the importance of brainstorming, identifying new issues and ideas, promoting the discussion of relevant concerns to improve products and processes. This inspires openness and teamwork and also encourages team involvement and buy-in. Continuous improvement and follow-up is also extremely important. The need to update FMEAs on a regular basis. Each time a change is made to a product or process, now is the time to consider what other processes would benefit from this new idea. Update all relevant documentation at the same time. Now it's best to update all of the relevant documentation at the same time, as this will, in the long run, save you time and ensure that we don't make the same mistakes in similar processes. The focus here is concentrating on lessons learned. Have weekly, monthly, quarterly review meetings. This will keep the team focused, give the platform for addressing concerns, brainstorming new ideas, and concentrating resources where they're most needed. Identify and track key metrics over time. Now, this identifies success over time, and hopefully here the trend is moving downwards, and it'll also identify spikes where action needs to be taken. Address areas for improvement. Again, we concentrate resources on the problem areas and set targets or milestones for complex projects. This will make complex projects more manageable and provides metrics for quantifying progress. So if we just take a look now and consider the different methods of controlling FMEA documentation, well, in the tools available, some companies will use dedicated FMEA software and other companies will use Excel spreadsheets. Now, just to talk a little bit about Excel spreadsheets, these are not really designed for FMEA documentation. There's very little opportunity to leverage existing information that can be quite tedious going through previous documents. Running reports from spreadsheets is very, very difficult. Revision control, there's no method of controlling revisions, and people can go in and change the name of the document and make a new revision, and this will add to a lot of confusion. And how do we secure document integrity? Who has access to the documents? Who has read and write privileges? So all of that can be very difficult using the spreadsheet method. So I'll just talk a little bit here about dedicated FMEA software and how that can help you and your team cut down on the amount of time that they're spending on FMEA documentation so that it's not seen as such a tedious task and that it's actually adding value. So the product that we have and that we develop for FMEA documentation is QA Assistant Studio. So we'll focus on what QA Assistant Studio has to offer, but there are other softwares available out there if you would like to research these as well. Well, most of the softwares would be database driven, um, so that rows and columns are formatted automatically. So the engineer is just concentrating on completing the information in the FMEA. They're not having to worry about merging rows or moving columns to make things look more attractive. This is all done automatically, so that this will help with the flow of the FMEA meeting. A QA Assistant Studio offers a lessons learned library. So this manages lessons learned on a continual basis, so that all of the information that you would enter into the software becomes part of the library and it's there to leverage when you create new documents. So for example, if you have a particular failure mode and you've established the potential effects for that failure mode, well, the next time you create a document and you enter that failure mode, the library will pull out the potential effects that you've already established. So this will save time um, thinking about what are the potential effects. It'll also help that you're using the same diction and language for each potential effect. Synchronization is another important factor. Every time that you make a change to a document, well, to go and if you, for example, if you change a process flow, and then you have to update the control plan and the process FMEA, or with synchronization feature, which is a feature of QA Assistant Studio, any change that you make to one document, if they're synchronized with the other documents, it'll prompt that change in the other documents. And you can also create master documents. So, for example, if you had multiple process steps that you use in your process that are used in across a lot of your products, what you can do is create master documents for each of these process steps. So then from these master documents, you will create your other documents, your process FMEA, control plan, and process flow. Then anytime that you would make a change to a process step, or indeed if a component is changed, you just need to update the master document. And then all the documents that have been created from these master documents become automatically updated. So again, this is reducing time spent on your documentation. In some cases, you might have hundreds of documents that use the same process step, and it can be very, very tedious if you're using Excel spreadsheets to go and change numerous other documents, and with them, time being of the essence, maybe this doesn't get done at the same time. QA Assistant Studio will also offer a document completion check. So again, if you have a very large document, it might be difficult to pick out where you maybe have omitted certain information. So before you lock a draft of a document, the software will run through a document completion check, and if there's any omissions there, that they'll be highlighted to you, and you can go in and make the adjustments. The software will also send the document through an approval workflow. So again, go back to spreadsheets if that's the method that you've been using. To send a document around for approval can be quite difficult to control. Who has the document? There's also the possibility that someone will accidentally rename the document or mess up with the revision. So to be able to send a document through an approval loop is very useful. You can also set read and write privileges. So this avoids accidental overwrites, protects the document integrity, and ensures relevant documents are being maintained. So this allows you to set read and write privileges. You can assign team members to your document so that everybody knows what documents they're working on. There's no chance of somebody going in and open up a document and messing up the revision number. Also with QA Assistant Studio, the software will record a full history of the document. So then when you pull out the history of the document, you'll see any changes that were made who exactly made those changes, and the date those changes were made. So there's a full history of what's happened to your document. Also, QA Assistant Studio will offer an email reminder capacity. So this really helps with the flow of an FMEA meeting. If you have a meeting and somebody is absent for whatever reason and you need them to follow up on something, well, you can assign a reminder to any of the cells and you're not having to go and call them or open Outlook. So it just really helps with the flow of a meeting, being able to prompt a reminder to one of the team members. Also, with web-based software, several people can work on a document at the same time, even in different locations. And that may be different locations within a building or different locations around the world. So if you're using the spreadsheet method and a few people are working on a document, well, what you do, you email that document and they make some changes and they email it back to you. And there's the opportunity within that to um, maybe change the name of the document or mess up the revision control. And what happens if you've emailed the document to one of your colleagues and in the meantime you want to make some changes, and how do you communicate that to your colleague? So with the web-based software, with several people being able to work on the same document at the same time, this is very useful. You just log in, the software will store the document so that there's not a few copies of the document floating around. It causes great confusion. Also, most softwares will offer some reporting tools to a greater or lesser degree. Well, with QA Assistant Studio, we offer the standard reporting, OPN reporting, risk trend reports, Pareto analysis. Apart from those standard reports, we also offer custom reports. And with custom reports, you can really search on any criteria from the data within the software, and this will produce some very meaningful results for those weekly, monthly, and quarterly meetings. I just might mention here our white paper, which is entitled Improving Efficiency and Effectiveness of FMEA Studies. This white paper was actually featured by the American Society for Quality on their website during World Quality Month last year. So it's an extremely useful document. We've had excellent feedback. The document is available to download from our website, www.qaassistant.com. I'll give my email address at the end of the session, and if anybody would like to email me directly, I'd be more than happy to provide a copy of this white paper. So that concludes this session for today. My name is Mary Bray. There's my email address, mbray@qaassistant.com. If you'd like to find out more about QA Assistant Studio, please visit our website or email me directly. So now I'll take any questions that you may have on today's session. Yes, thank